Everyone in the valley believed the Apache girl was cursed. Men turned away the moment they learned who she was, and families warned their sons never to go near her. But one poor rancher saw something no one else could see, a brave heart hidden behind years of pain. His decision to marry the woman everyone rejected would change not only their lives, but the destiny of an entire Wild West community forever. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more unforgettable Wild West stories. Share this video with someone who believes kindness is stronger than hate. And tell us in the comments, would you have had the courage to stand beside Nayeli when the whole town stood against her? The wind carried dust across the Arizona Territory in the early 1880s, as the afternoon sun stretched long shadows over the rocky hills. Far from the busy frontier towns, a young Apache woman named Nayeli walked alone through the land her ancestors had called home for generations. Only a few years earlier, her family had been torn apart by violence that had swept across the Southwest. Since then, she had survived by hunting, gathering herbs, and relying on the skills her mother and grandmother had taught her. Though hardship had become her constant companion, she refused to let bitterness harden her heart. The nearby settlement spoke of Nayeli in frightened whispers. Most of the ranchers had never exchanged a single word with her, yet they judged her because she belonged to the Apache people. Mothers pulled their children indoors whenever they caught sight of her in the distance, and merchants refused to trade with her. Some men mocked her, while others warned strangers to stay away from the Apache girl. Despite the cruel treatment, Nayeli never answered hatred with anger. She quietly returned to the mountains each evening, carrying her loneliness like an invisible burden. Every morning before sunrise, Nayeli climbed the hills to collect clean water from a hidden spring known only to a few Apache families. She gathered wild plants for medicine, tracked deer through the canyons, and repaired the small shelter she had built from cedar logs and animal hides. The wilderness became both her home and her protector. Coyotes howled through the night, eagles circled above the cliffs, and the desert winds whispered stories of the past. Even in isolation, Nayeli believed the Great Spirit had not abandoned her, though she often wondered if she would spend the rest of her life completely alone. Several miles away lived Samuel Carter, a poor rancher whose life had been filled with struggles of a different kind. His tiny ranch held only a few cattle, an old horse, and a weathered wooden cabin that needed constant repairs. After losing his parents to illness, Samuel had worked endlessly just to survive. Unlike many men in town, he judged people by their actions, rather than their appearance or heritage. His neighbors laughed at his kindness, calling him too soft for the harsh frontier, but Samuel never allowed their opinions to shape his character. One hot afternoon, Samuel rode into the hills searching for a calf that had wandered away from the ranch. After several hours, he found the frightened animal trapped between large rocks near a steep ravine. As he struggled to free it, his horse became startled and threw him onto the rocky ground. Pain shot through his leg, making it impossible to stand. Alone in the wilderness, Samuel realized that night would arrive long before anyone thought to search for him. For the first time in years, fear settled deep inside his heart. Not long afterward, Nayeli noticed disturbed tracks leading toward the ravine while gathering medicinal herbs. Following them carefully, she discovered the injured rancher beside the trapped calf. She recognized him as one of the settlers, but saw no hatred in his tired eyes. Without hesitation, she freed the calf, cleaned Samuel's wounds with healing plants, and fashioned a sturdy walking stick from a nearby branch. Samuel thanked her with sincere respect, instead of suspicion. Their brief conversation was simple, yet both sensed an unexpected kindness that neither had experienced from strangers before. When Samuel returned to town, he spoke honestly about the Apache woman who had saved his life. Instead of believing him, many townspeople accused him of making up stories or falling under the influence of an enemy. Some warned him that helping an Apache woman would destroy his reputation forever. Samuel remained silent as they mocked him, but deep inside he knew they were wrong. The courage and compassion he had witnessed in Nayeli stood in sharp contrast to the prejudice surrounding him, leaving him unable to forget the remarkable woman in the mountains. Samuel ignored every warning the townspeople gave him. A few weeks after recovering from his injuries, he returned to the mountains and found Nayeli once again gathering herbs near the hidden spring. This time, he did not come as a stranger in need of help, but as a man with sincere respect. He asked if she would consider building a life with him on his small ranch. Nayeli was surprised. No settler had ever looked at her with kindness, let alone offered her a future. After days of quiet reflection and prayer, she accepted, believing that perhaps the Great Spirit had finally opened a new path. Their simple marriage took place beneath a giant cottonwood tree, witnessed only by the open sky and the peaceful valley. The first months of married life tested them in every possible way. Samuel's ranch was poor, the crops were weak, and a long drought threatened to destroy everything they owned. Many neighbors refused to trade with them simply because Samuel had married an Apache woman. Some even spread cruel rumors, hoping the couple would abandon the valley. Instead of giving up, Nayeli used the knowledge passed down through generations of Apache ancestors. She showed Samuel hidden water sources, taught him which native grasses survived the dry season, and helped build natural irrigation channels that carried precious water to their fields. Slowly, their cattle became healthier, and the land that once looked lifeless began to flourish. As the seasons changed, people could no longer ignore the remarkable success of the little ranch. While other farms struggled through the drought, Samuel and Nayeli harvested healthy crops and raised strong livestock. Travelers passing through the valley stopped to admire their flourishing fields, asking how such a poor ranch had become so prosperous. Samuel always gave the same answer. He proudly told everyone that the true strength of the ranch came from his wife, whose wisdom and courage had saved both the land and his future. Hearing those words filled Nayeli with quiet pride, because for the first time in many years she felt respected rather than feared. One harsh winter, a violent snowstorm trapped several families from the nearby town in the mountains. Food quickly disappeared, and many believed they would never make it home alive. Remembering the old Apache trails, Nayeli guided Samuel through hidden mountain passes that remained safe even during heavy snowfall. Together they delivered blankets, firewood, medicine, and food to every stranded family before leading them safely back to town. The very people who had once refused to speak to Nayeli now embraced her with tears in their eyes. They finally understood that the woman they had feared for so long possessed a heart filled only with compassion. Years later, Samuel and Nayeli's ranch became one of the most respected homesteads in the entire valley. Their home welcomed travelers of every background, proving that kindness could unite people once divided by fear and prejudice. Children grew up hearing the true story of the Apache woman no one wanted, and the poor rancher who saw her worth before anyone else. Long after Samuel and Nayeli were gone, their love remained a symbol of hope across the Wild West, reminding future generations that a person's character, courage, and compassion will always shine brighter than wealth, race, or reputation. Their legacy lived on in every harvest, every helping hand, and every heart that chose understanding over hatred.